Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Our today's lecture is on communicating in organization, or we also call it flow of information in organization. So, this lecture is mostly related to the different directions in which communication flows in an organization. And let us see what we'll be discussing in today's class, in today's lecture. Uh, First of all, uh, I'll talk about flow of communication in organization. Then after that, I'll discuss organization chart, which is an important and essential element of every organization. And uh, then after that, I will throw light on types of flow of communication in an organization, and particularly these types of flow are official, uh, the one which are given numbers, like vertical flow of communication, horizontal flow of communication, and diagonal flow of communication. So these are different official types of flow of communication in an organization. And the last one is the grapevine. So this grapevine is unofficial or informal, type of flow of communication in an organization. So let us see what is the flow of communication in an organization. Uh, for every organization, it is important that they must have clear lines of communication. Now, um, as you know that communication can flow in different directions within an organization. If those lines of communication are clearly drawn, if they are specified in advance in the form of an organization chart, so everyone will be at ease in following those lines, in following those directions, as far as communication flow is concerned. So, uh, if the organization is a smaller one, so in that case there will be just few workers and there will be very few problems, because the number of workers or employees are few in number. So there is no such problem in for the employees to communicate with one another. And on the other hand, if the organization is a large one, if it is a larger organization, then it is sure that there will be more workers, and there are greater chances of having many problems if the correct lines of communication are not clear to each and every employee or worker of that organization. So in this regard, uh, usually organizations, they produce organization chart on which the hierarchy of all the staff is given, and it also defines the lines of communication for each and every worker. So in organization chart is a kind of, you can say, a figure in which you can say the different levels, different sections of each and every uh, you know uh, department is given, and it is considered as the structure of an organization. So as far as larger organizations are concerned, they produce organization chart which defines structure of the organization. So this actually helps each and every worker, each and every employee of an organization to be very much clear about whom to communicate with. So organization chart defines the lines of communication, and it tells you, you can say, about the different chains of command as well, or hierarchy of the organization. Uh, just take an example of your own family. You know, the top rank at your own home is that of your father, and after that comes your mother, then your elder brother, then the second most elder brother, then the third, and so on. So you know, the hierarchy is actually structured in the form of senior at the top and juniors, or those who are inferior in rank at the bottom, uh, below the level of the senior. So this is how organizations work, and you should be very much careful in following the chain of command, because if you bypass your immediate superior, and you write a letter or an application directly to your boss, so your immediate superior will be offended by that, right? So this should always be avoided. You should always take his consent, his approval, approval of your immediate senior, and then pass on that letter or application by his approval. After that, you should pass it on to your boss, to your you know, executive director, or for example, the chief executive officer, who is boss of that organization. So as far as organization chart is concerned, it shows how communication can take place among workers at different levels and different sections. This organization chart actually helps us uh, in understanding the different directions in which communication can flow at different levels and at different sections or different departments of the same organization. So uh, as you can see, this is one of the figures of organization chart. As you can see that at the top there is Chief Executive Officer, CEO, then um, uh, uh, his junior is Executive Secretary, and further there are three different other sections: a marketing vice president, and production vice president, sales vice president. These are different sections or departments of an organization. And under each under each vice president, there is a public relations section, a public relations officer, then product services officers, and under product services officers, there are two managers who are working at different levels. Then there is, you can say, production vice president, under whom there are two other managers who are working at different levels in different sections. And the third one is sales vice president, under whom there are two managers. So you see that these are different levels, right? CEO, chief executive secretary, then marketing vice president, production vice president, sales vice president. These are different levels, right? uh, the level, you know, at the top there is CEO, then comes secretary, who is junior to him, and then marketing vice president, production vice president, sales vice president. These are junior to executive secretary, and then comes public relations, product services, you know, managers. These are all, you can say, working under a different, you can say, vice presidents, and they are performing different roles. So this is an organization chart. These are mostly produced and developed by larger organizations where the staff is larger in strength, where communication takes place most of the time frequently. So such type of organization charts help all the employees to understand the clear lines of communication. Suppose this manager, who is working under the supervision of sales vice president, if he has an application, a request, a complaint, so he will forward that complaint by getting approval of sales vice president, who will approve it and forward it to executive secretary, and then executive secretary will forward that complaint or request to chief executive officer. So this is how communication takes place. If there is a command, there is, for example, some directives from the office of CEO, chief executive officer, so he will move that notice or circular through chief secretary, executive secretary, sorry, and executive secretary will pass it on to other sections or departments of that organization, who are working under the supervision of executive secretary, and they will pass it on to the managers and to the other sections of the same organization. So this is how organizations work and communicate with one another. And now comes the types of flow. Now, officially, there are three different types of flow of communication in an organization. The first one is vertical flow of communication, which is further subdivided into two different subtypes. The first one is downward flow of communication, and the second one is upward flow of communication. And the second main or major type of flow of communication is horizontal flow of communication. And the third one is diagonal flow of communication. So let us see what are these different flows of communication in detail. As far as the vertical flow of communication is concerned, this moves between individuals at different levels in an organizations. The officers among which the communication takes place are at different levels, at different ranks. Okay, so it is the most frequent form of communication. Most of the time we receive directives, different strategies, different policies in the form of circulars, in the form of notices from the boss, and this happens most frequently. The frequency of such type of communication is high. So sometimes messages are sent from the CEO to all employees, or from all department heads to from a department head to all employees in his or her department only. It often happens that most of the time we receive messages in the form of circulars, in the form of notices, in the form of memorandums from chief executive officer, and those messages are addressed to all employees of the organization. And sometimes it occurs that department heads, head of departments, also circulate important messages to his or her employees who are working under his supervision within the same department. And generally, this type of communication, this vertical communication, follows the chain of command. Okay, so the reporting lines that are reflected on a company's organization chart, as I discussed earlier when I was explaining the organization chart in the figure that was given on the earlier slide. So chain of command is actually the hierarchy which a person has to follow for effective communication. So this vertical flow of communication is further subdivided into two subtypes. The first one is downward flow of communication, and the second one is upward flow of communication. Now, as far as downward flow of communication is concerned, it follows a formal chain of command, and it is established to direct subordinates, the juniors, and to convey information to them related to organization's objectives, policies, strategies, or any other directions that the CEO or the boss thinks necessary to be shared with the subordinates. So the manager or the CEO usually sends messages downward to those who are working under his or her immediate supervision. So this is called downward flow of communication, and it comes under vertical flow of communication. And the other one is upward. So as far as this flow of communication is concerned, the upward flow of communication is the line of communication through which subordinates can convey information to their seniors. From the bottom, from the lower rank officers, when information starts moving towards towards the boss, towards immediate, you can say, immediate, you know, boss, to the immediate officers, immediate superiors. So such type of communication flow is called upward flow of communication. And they begin from the subordinates and move towards the higher rank officers, and to the seniors. And employees send messages upward to their immediate superior. Now, this is, you can say, a table which is, you can say, meant for comparison between downward communication and upward flow of communication. Now, as far as downward communication is concerned, it is the formal chain of command established to direct subordinates and convey information pertaining to organization's objectives, policies, and strategies. This has already been discussed. And here is the definition of upward communication. Upward communication is the line of communication through which subordinates can convey information to their seniors. Now, this is the difference between downward and upward communication. Now, what is the nature of downward and upward communication? As far as downward communication is concerned, it is authoritative and directive. Usually, authority by the boss is used to give directions, to advise, to suggest, to direct, to give orders, to give command. So it is authoritative. Its nature is authoritative and directive. As far as the nature of upward communication is concerned, it is participative and appellative. You participate. Subordinates usually participate with their seniors. They cooperate with their seniors. That is why its nature is participative and appellative. And usually, whenever they request for something, so they actually appeal. That is appellative. It has got appellative approach, appellative nature. And as far as the flow of these two types of communication is concerned, so the downward communication, the flow is from superior to subordinates, from the high rank officer to the lower rank officers. And in upward communication, the flow of information is from subordinate to the high rank officer, from the lower rank officer to the high rank officer. And the purpose, let's see the purpose of both these flow of communications. The purpose of downward communication is to give orders, to give instructions, to give advice, or assign responsibilities. These are such, such type of activities that are done by the boss. The boss usually gives orders, he gives instructions, he gives advice, and he can also assign responsibilities. He can also, give you certain responsibilities to complete a certain project, to complete a certain task. And as far as upward communication is concerned, here the sender is mostly subordinate, and he can make a complaint, or he can appeal, he can request, he can also give feedback and suggestions. So this is the purpose of upward communication. Upward communication, which usually begins from subordinate, from the lower rank officer to the higher rank officer. And as far as the speed of both these types of flow of communication is concerned, the speed of the speed of downward communication is mostly fast, because that information which comes from the boss is mostly very much important, and it is immediately circulated among the lower rank officers. And as far as the upward communication is concerned, the speed of upward communication is slow, because it has to move through a proper channel. You have to approve it from your immediate supervisor, immediate superior, and he will then move it on to another superior officer, and that is how it takes time in reaching the boss or CEO. And the frequency, how frequently these two types of communication takes place. As far as this downward communication is concerned, its frequency is high, okay? And as far as this upward communication is concerned, so it is comparatively low, okay? I mistakenly wrote low here and high here, but the frequency, the way these messages are circulated in a downward flow are high, and the way the messages are, you can say, shared in upward flow are low. And examples of downward communication are circulars and notices, and examples of upward communication are reports, direct letters, and proposals. So this is the difference between downward communication and upward communication. Now comes the second type, which is called horizontal flow of communication. Horizontal communication occurs between people of the same status, of the same rank. Usually the communication that takes place between sales staff, okay? The communication that takes place between departmental heads. I mean, every head of department, if every head of department communicates with one another to share information, to exchange information, that will be called horizontal flow of communication. Or if communication takes place between directors of an organization, so that will be called horizontal communication. Or such type of communication can also take place between supervisors. So in horizontal flow of communication, both the sender and recipient or receiver of the message are from the same department, or they can also be from the different departments, the different units of the same organization. And here, the main purpose of horizontal flow of communication is to exchange information, to exchange or to share data in order to complete routine tasks that arise every day. So, and the common link between them is their need to cooperate in terms of exchanging or sharing data, and to share information or data. And it can happen, horizontal flow of communication can occur. It can happen in the form of face-to-face discussion, in the form of telephone call, or in the form of memorandum or correspondence. And the third type is diagonal flow of communication. Now, diagonal flow of communication is that type of communication that takes place between people who work in different departments and work at different levels within an organization. Now, the important thing in this definition is that the people are from different departments, and they are from different levels as well. Their ranks are different, their posts are different, the positions which they hold are different, and the sections or departments or units in which they are working in an organization are also different. So usually such type of communication involves more than one department or one unit of an organization, because there are certain tasks that require people or workers or employees from different sections and from different levels. So there is no obvious clear line of authority. Okay. uh, Take an example of inquiry committee. Now, in an inquiry committee, there can be several members from different sections and of different ranks. Okay, so one of them is, uh, uh, made as the inquiry head, and other members are, you can say, given the task to probe the matter, to inquire the matter, and collect details or data or information so that an inquiry report could be written. So uh, such type of tasks are, handled in diagonal flow of communication. The information which they exchange with one another will be in the form of diagonal flow of communication. Now, such type of flow of communication involves committees, teams, task forces, which are constituted to solve a problem or to complete a certain project. And diagonal flow of communication depends on cooperation, goodwill, and respect. These three, qualities are very much needed in among all the members of diagonal flow of communication. Now, this is the figure of diagonal flow of communication. As you can see, there is operations manager, production manager, maintenance manager, IT manager, sales manager. These are from different units or different departments of an organization, and a committee or a team has been made of these different managers from different departments of an organization to complete a certain project or to make an inquiry. So then comes the grapevine, which is unofficial flow of communication in an organization. Now, in Grapevine, the correct and defined lines of communication, which are drawn on, you can say, organization chart, are not followed. Correct and defined lines of uh, organizational chart for the flow of communication, for the flow of information, are not followed here in this case. And it is unofficial, it is informal, and it is personal communication system. Okay, so and and this type of flow of communication is also considered as a vehicle for distortion of truth, rumor, and gossip. Grapevine usually results in distortion of truth. It results in rumors. It results in exaggerated gossips. So the information is mostly incomplete, it is false, and it is exaggerated, which is mostly circulated in a personal communication system, in an unofficial manner, in an informal manner. That is why it is called, that's why it's called a vehicle for distortion of truth, rumor, and gossip. And it is highly dangerous and damaging to any organization where it exists, because it spreads incomplete, false, and exaggerated information. Exaggerated information is that information which is, uh, highly, you can say, overstated. Okay, that information which is highly overstated. There is no truth in it. There is very less a very less faction of truth in a fraction of truth in it. So such type of information which moves through grapevine is incomplete. It is false. It is based on rumors. It is based on distorted truth. There is no truth in it. It is almost all exaggerated information, and it is highly damaging and dangerous too. And this type of information flow results in low morale. uh, the morale of individuals becomes low because of it, and it also results in fear, in cynicism as well, in unsettled workforce. People are not, you know, you can say, aware of the fact that they have been given their responsibilities, which they will have to perform in an organization. So the workforce is unsettled. People have fear in their minds, in their hearts, and they become cynical in nature. They lose their morale too. And as far as its eradication is concerned, so we cannot completely eradicate it. We cannot completely root out grapevine from an organization. But in this regard, management can take certain steps, and they can adopt certain measures which can reduce the chances of you know spreading rumors, the chances of distorting the message through grapevine. So, uh, in this regard, management should always keep all the channels of communication open, all the lines of communication open for all the workers, for all the employees, for all the officers who work in an organization, and they should always provide information adequately and accurately at the earliest possible opportunity to maintain confidence of all employees. You will, as a boss, uh, you will lose, your confidence of all your employees if you do not provide them adequate and accurate information as early as possible, so that they may not engage themselves in grapevine, in rumors, in distorted information, in spreading, uh, false information through chit chat on different occasions, like while taking coffee, or during a lunchtime, or in an informal conversation with one another. And here is the figure of grapevine. As you can see, A has got an information which is incomplete, which is false, and which is based on distorted truth. And he shares it with B, C, and D. And B further spreads that information, which he has, that incomplete information, and distorts it, exaggerates it to F, G, and H. And C, who has also got incomplete piece of information from A, shares it with P and M. These are different individuals. These letters and these circles indicate different individuals, different people of an organization. So A also shared that piece of information with another individual, uh, which is indicated as D, and shares it with uh, D further shares it with L, K, and J. So this is how uh, grapevine works in an organization. And this is the end of our today's lecture. Our next lecture will be on communication channels. And thank you very much. If you have any problem, you can ask questions. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.